So if we don't find a new path, we are submitting to everything around us and its power over us each day. And so, when I wake up and I start to scroll social media first thing, I'm submitting to that and saying, I'm going to now feel how this makes me feel first thing. Or I'm going to turn on my TV and watch the news, and I'm going to feel first thing in the morning how this news show just happens to make me feel, versus having control over that space and going, all right, like I don't let myself check text for like the first 30 minutes of the day, which is not that big a deal, but I don't want to see anything on there that's going to either make me happy or sad or restless or make me want to open my laptop and work. And that's just a boundary that I set last year that's super helpful to be able to say, like, you know what, I want to control how I feel emotionally the best that I can. And then when the day starts and we go to work or we go to school, then all that stuff's going to hit us anyways. So just create those little spaces where at least for this amount of time, I have somewhat of the best control over mind, body, soul, if possible. Boundaries are a big part of like allowing creativity and inspiration to flow. And so like if we don't have boundaries, we will give when we should withhold. We will say yes when we should say no. We will spend when we should save, and we will be drained when we should be full. And so it's just the opposite of like, man, I probably shouldn't have said yes to that like party at their house. Or like, man, I probably shouldn't have said I was going to go to the movies. Like whatever your boundaries are, maybe they're financial boundaries, maybe to save money, maybe they're, I've got work to get done. And so anytime we're feeling that I have to say yes, but I don't really want to say yes, I would kind of stretch that boundary and say, like, I want to be full. I want to save what I need to save. I want to be able to say no, and I want to be able to give more by actually not being empty all the time. And like these are all things that I've learned over the past 3 years of this topic that's lingered over my life. So I always say, like, I'm not knowledgeable on this because I was good at this. I'm knowledgeable on this because I was terrible at this. It was like, I'm so bad at this that I have to go on this path of learning about it, or I'm just going to keep sucking at it, And so, and this is the fun one. This is the fun one for me. The people that we think we need boundaries with the least are the ones we actually need them the most. And so it's actually the people closest to us that affect our schedule and our time and our emotions the most. And that doesn't mean that we become this like crude person that's distant and we don't give ourselves to people. I'm all for generosity and giving ourselves all the time, but like it's the hardest place for us to create boundaries in our life with the people closest to us because it's awkward. Like I want to go to your house for dinner every time you ask me, but if I do it just because I know you and I love you, then I'm not creating a boundary, or anyone in our life that we think, man, yeah, I need boundaries with these people, but not these people. No, it's like really everyone. And here's the reality, like, you, and boundaries protect you. And so like, if it's like hey, I can't do this today, but what about tomorrow? Or what about Wednesday? You know how you feel. You know if you're drained. You know if you need some time by yourself. You know if you need time with your friends. You know if you need to breathe. And so you being aware of where you are mentally, spiritually, physically, then allows you to say, you know what, this boundary is to protect me so you can like me. I remember dating someone one time, and I told them, I said, if we keep going this direction of constantly being together all the time, never having alone time, always doing all these things, I said, you're not going to like me at the end of this relationship. I'm a nice, kind, gentle, loving person, but like, if we don't have some form of boundary, you're not going to like me. And what do you think happened? We didn't create boundaries just as much on me, but like in the end, I was not that person because I had not taken any time for myself. This is a question that I asked myself probably like 3 years ago, because I had a lot of ideas and visions and dreams and whatevers. And I said, how am I supposed to accomplish all this? How am I even supposed to start at all this? And this is the frustratingly simple answer. It's so much fun because I love to be going and doing and coffee shopping and people's parties and people's houses and sporting events and yes. The answer was, can you sit? That's what I heard in my head. I was like, can you sit down? That's how you're going to be a more whole person. That's how you're going to accomplish more. And it's not just about accomplishing more. That's how you're going to be at peace and content in life, is like sitting down and allowing yourself to have space for you. But I'm like, but I need to work, but I need to do, but I need to go do this. It's like, no, I need to journal. I need to read. I need to breathe. I need to watch YouTube. I need to chill out. And I think there's an author that said one time that he had a chair where in that chair he wouldn't allow himself to do anything but just sit there. No work, no prayer, no thoughts, no journaling, just sit there. And so he had one chair in his house. When he would sit there, he would just allow himself to do absolutely nothing. look out the window, stare at the wall. And he said thoughts would come, ideas would come, memories would come. But like I've never done that. But even that idea of like just sitting down for a minute, because we think that like any bit of inactivity means that I'm not moving my life forward because it's so countercultural, but in reality it is. Yeah, this is the fun part too, is like we must embrace imperfection if we desire to grow. The idea that I'm not going to be perfect at rest, I'm still not perfect at rest, I'm not going to be perfect at finding this creative inspiration, is the idea that I do want to grow, but I have to embrace the imperfection of it in order for it to actually happen. I think this is something that I dealt with for a long time, was like, that's not my problem, like that's their problem. Rest is not my problem. Like burnout is not my problem. I'm just a driven person. I'm just a busy person. I'm just an anxious person. I have to be that way. And I think that that's not my problem held me back from actually finding a little bit of a place of freedom and breathing room for myself. And so I would challenge you, like lean in if you feel like, that's not my problem. I don't deal with that. Like think, okay, well, where in your week have you created a little space? And so it's not let me make a rule that if I don't stop every Sunday from 3 to 5 and do this, like it's not meant to be legalistic. But I think at the same time, if we're not intentional, then it sometimes doesn't happen. This is true with vulnerability, and Nick and I have had this conversation, a lot of us has, is like, people don't really connect with the best part of you. People connect with the worst part of you. People connect with your problems, your issues, your brokenness, your story. And so like, be okay with not being perfect with the people in your life. And say, hey, you know what? Like, I feel really drained. Like, I don't feel any creative inspiration. I really need to go to the movies right now. I can't come to your house, or I can't do this, or whatever. And like, people will respect that. People will see the truth in your openness to say like, yeah, I don't feel good today, or like my mind's racing, or I'm feeling down, or I'm feeling up, depending on what your tendencies are. And so understand that vulnerability, I always say with accountability, like it makes people closer. Like if Graham comes to me and says, hey Jordan, like I've been dealing with this, like I just wanted you to be thinking and praying about it, just want to let you know. Like I would respect him so much more because I can relate with the brokenness. I can relate with the down part of him. Whereas if like we only present our best self, no one's like getting on Instagram going, I really relate with their best self. I connect with their best self. I love their best self. It's more of like when someone really opens up and says, this is who I am, this is what I deal with. Those are the people that you want to like run with and actually learn to be like they are. This one's fun. And I think part of this talk is just like giving you permission to create this for yourself, because people give you permission to run, to get married, to go to school, to have kids, to follow the cultural norm, but people don't necessarily talk about this as much. And I think number one is that nobody respects your time but you. This could be obviously argued if you're married or have close friends or family, they probably do respect your time. But a lot of people in our life, say if someone's trying to pull you away from your family or pull you away from your marriage or something that you need to do for you, they may be thinking of the angle of why they need you to come to their thing or come help them with that. And you just have to answer like, yeah, is this for me too? And the reality that we'll never get more time. That's a hard one, but it's true. Like time is the one thing that we're not going to get more of. And so, sometimes I don't want this talk to feel like, oh, well, you can never like go to the nursing home, or like you can never go to your grandma's house and just paint the deck. And like you do things that are absolutely not for you at all. But you do them when you're not empty. Does that make sense? You try to do them when you're not empty, so that the reality is that we're giving people, but I think we just haven't been set free to say like, yeah, give to yourself. Give yourself some space. Allow yourself to be creatively inspired. Take a break from your work so that when you come back to your work, you can actually feel better about it again. What holds us back the most? Usually fear, usually FOMO. Usually if I step back, everything in my life's gonna step back. I'm gonna miss everything. And that's just not true. Like, I've been off social media for the most part for a year or two, and like I rarely get people that ask me why I'm not on there. I didn't really have anyone, not many people said, where'd you go? Or like, where are you? And that's not a knock, and that's not telling anyone to get off social, but I think because our business has social, obviously. But I think we think that if we log off for 7 days, or if we create this space for ourselves, that there's this FOMO of I'm gonna miss everything. And I think the reality is in my experience, there's like a whole nother world out there. It's like when you sit down by yourself for 2 hours and you're like, wow, I didn't hear any negativity. I didn't hear any news stories. I didn't hear anything that set me off, because you just created your own little space. And so I think our most important asset in our life, in some forms, this could be taken out of context, but like it's ourself. Like we want to give, we want to be there for people in our life, but it's very hard to do that if we don't also take care of ourselves. And so Give yourself permission to feel how you feel. That's a huge one for me, is saying like, all right, I really don't feel good today. Like last night, I have a thing where I make myself read something before bed. Even if it's like 2 pages, I'm like, I'm reading before bed. I'm doing it. But like last night, I was so tired, I just gave myself permission to say, you know what, I'm not going to read. I'm going to get in my bed, I'm going straight to sleep. Because I know me, I know how I feel. And in that moment, I felt I don't need to read. I'm not going to legalistically follow this plan. I'm going to go to bed. And I went to bed. And so don't let this turn into the opposite side, which is going from, not a lot of boundaries to everything super legalistic. But I think it's just giving you permission to have that conversation in your head and go, I think I'm going to say no tonight. Or I think I'm not going to go to this. And usually it's rewarding. And then in the times when we say yes, it brings a lot more joy to us. And I think a lot of it is just communicating. James and I have been working on this a lot, but it's like if we communicate how we're feeling, if we communicate how things are going, then we can share in that together. We can share in that frustration. We can share in that joy. We can share in the sadness. And I think the more we do that, the more we grow in community together, and we're actually able to show up for one another and be the creatively inspired and generous, thoughtful, loving people that we really desire to be.